What's up again, guys? Brian here at 3TR, and I got a massive episode of the People's Questions this time around, episode 97. I'd first off like to thank all of you guys out there that sent in your really great collection of questions, and I really am going to try to speak through them as fast as I can because I don't like to make these videos too long because they take a long time to edit. So, the first question comes from Raymond Shafer, and you want to know, do I think the next Resident Evil game will be the last one for the current storyline? Personally, I actually thought the last one was going to be Resident Evil 6, simply because it was the perfect setting to establish new characters to push the franchise forward and to actually retire the old ones. The best example of this was a moment that happened during Chris's storyline, in which he's talking to Piers, his partner, and he says, you know, after this mission, I would really be honored if you would take my place. And for me, that symbolized that Capcom was going to retire the old characters and let these new characters take over the franchise, and I think that would have been the perfect moment to do it. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but I wouldn't mind if they let Resident Evil 7 be the last one for the storyline. I do believe it does need an ending, and it needs to be rebooted. The next two questions come from the man Mike1127, and sorry guys, the sun's coming down. I'm trying to do this as fast as I can. And you want to know, who do I think would win in a fight between Katana or Scarlet? Long story short, I think Scarlet would win simply because from what I've seen of her fighting combos and styles, she's much more of a ferocious fighter than Katana. Katana is much more elegant and based off precision. And if you saw the fight between Katana and Melina in the Mortal Kombat Legacy series, you could clearly tell that Melina was easily going to win if she hadn't been distracted by Johnny Cage stabbing her in the foot. So, that being said, Scarlet is not quite as ferocious as Melina, but I would definitely put her a step above someone like Jade, but right below Melina, so I do believe Scarlet would be able to take down Katana. Your next question is, have I ever heard of the game Sims? Yes, I have, and basically it's just you playing God. I've never played it myself. I've seen a lot of my relatives play it, and they've enjoyed it, so yeah, I know what it is, but I've never played it. Next question comes from a newbie for the People's Questions, and you go by the name, I hope I say this right, Hayden Burden, and I probably put your name like somewhere here. And you want to know, what game do I want to see a sequel to? I actually picked out 3 games that I would love to see sequels for. The first being Metal Gear Rising. This actually surprised me quite a bit. I was at first against the idea of them turning Metal Gear into a hack and slash, but after playing it and really seeing the direction that they want to go, I do believe that as a what if the story did continue after Snake's storyline, this could work with this type of combat. The next game I would love to see sequel to is Ni no Kuni. This is the game that revitalized my love for RPGs. It's the best RPG I've played in 10 years, and I would just love to see the story of Oliver and his friends continue on. And the third game, which is highly unlikely that they'll ever make a sequel for, but I would like to see a sequel to Michael Jackson The Experience, simply because I really enjoyed the game. I think some of my earliest videos were of me dancing to this game. Like, I put like the camera in the background when I was first starting out. I was just a little bit disappointed that the soundtrack list was so short. I could have picked an extra 15-20 songs I would have liked to have danced to. I mean, my all-time favorite song isn't even in the game. So, you know, I was just a little bit disappointed. And, you know, as big as these games can get, they could have easily have added the song. So, I would like to see a sequel to that game, but we're not going to get it, most likely. Next question comes from Yulie Silva, and you want to know, have I played Super Meat Boy? I don't know what that is. I'm guessing it's a game. If you can actually tell me a little bit more about it in the comments down below, if it sounds like an interesting game to try out, then I will certainly test it out. The next 2 questions after that come from TokokoMan91, and you want to know, which martial arts would I be willing to learn, except CQC, of course. If I had to pick a main fighting style, it would be Taekwondo, but I would probably back that up with some Judo or some Tai Chi. The type of martial arts that I would like to be is, I would want Taekwondo to be my main fighting style, but I would like to know other fighting styles to back up for Taekwondo's weaknesses. So, you know, although I'd be mostly Taekwondo, I would have other fighting styles I could fall back on if Taekwondo isn't working, for like if I'm in a fight or something. Your next question is, do I own any suits? Yes, I do. I own some suits. I only wear them during special occasions, and you know, I think we might be approaching a special occasion, so maybe I'll pop out the suit just to show you. If you saw my Men in Black 3 review that I did last year, I was wearing my suits in that one too, so you can go ahead and check my history of videos and go check out my suit back then. Next question comes from Draven G, and you had 2 questions, and you want to know who are my favorite wrestlers. I'm going to pick out 3. Let's see. It would have, number 1 unquestionably is Stone Cold Steve Austin, hands down. Number 2 after that would be Shawn Michaels, and my favorite current wrestler I would say is Randy Orton. Out of the 3 of them though, I would say if I could pick any of their finishers that I would love to learn how to do, it would be the RKO, simply because I've seen that move used so many cool ways, especially with the mid-air RKOs. Those are just amazing how they can do the timing. So those are just my 3 favorite wrestlers. The next question is, will I be watching WrestleMania 30? Yes, I will. Out of all pay-per-views that come out for WWE, the only 2 that I will actually pay and watch are Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. If you actually want me to do like videos on that for like the next WrestleMania and Royal Rumble, just tell me in the comments down below, and I will be sure to make a note of that, so when the time comes to review those, I will do a video on those. The next 2 questions come from Liono95, King of the Thundercats. Sorry, I kind of mispronounced it last time. And you want to know, what are my thoughts on the Xbox One? The Xbox One, you know what, I'm not going to answer that in this episode. I promise you, I will upload a separate video. I'll be sure to make the next video after this that talks about just my initial thoughts on the Xbox One. I promise. It's just too much, and it will take up too much of the time for this video to really go into depth with my official thoughts on the Xbox One. But your next question is, Shadow the Hedgehog versus Bass for Mega Man series. Unquestionably, Shadow would win. To simplify why I think he would win unquestionably is, if you've seen Death Battle, they actually did an episode that put Shadow against Vegeta. And the main question that they threw out was, it wasn't if Vegeta could survive Shadow, it was if he could survive Super Shadow. I do not think Bass would be able to survive Super Shadow. Super Shadow's powers are so immensely powerful, that is unlike anything Bass ever encountered in his whole lifespan of combat. So that's why I don't think Bass has a chance. He might be able to hold off Super Shadow in his normal form, but once he takes off those rings and shooks up, he's screwed. The next question comes from a newbie by the name of Nave, and you want to know, what is my experience with Pokemon? I'm like probably most people in my age group. I was actually into Pokemon when I was about 7 years old. I spent about a good 3 to 4 years kind of being a big fan of it, collecting the cards, getting the plush, and sorry, there's a jet taking off the runway just now. But then Yu-Gi-Oh! Came along, and I was more into Yu-Gi-Oh! Than I ever was Pokemon. I even still have my deck from Yu-Gi-Oh! That I built over about 7 years. And I just haven't had a chance to play anyone. I think my biggest problem with Pokemon is that it's so big with the collection of Pokemon now. I mean, does anyone remember the first 151 Pokemon? I actually had those Pokemon memorized, and I could actually tell you them in alphabetical order. And then they added an extra 100. Now, I was actually okay with this at the time because the first 150 Pokemon were from the Kanto region. And then when they added the extra 100, we were in the Johto region. So at that point, I thought, okay, we've now been around the world. This side is Kanto, this side is Johto. We've seen all the Pokemon, and then they kept adding them and adding them and adding them. And then we had some that were genetically created, and then we had some from space, and then we had some mystical Pokemon. Like, where were these Pokemon 10 years ago? Why are they coming out now? There is no explanation for this. So that's why I kind of got off of Pokemon like right when I entered middle school. It was just getting too big for me, and it just was impossible to keep track of. The next questions come from Edgar Farrar, and you want to know, should there be an animated series for the Batman Arkham series? Yes, I think they could actually do an animated series for the Arkham series. Arkham franchise is very well established. Both new and younger holders are aware of it, so to make an animated series around that type of storyline would work. My only problem with that is I think they want to finish working on Beware the Batman first. I don't think it's wise to have 2 different Batman storylines or like animated shows playing at the same time. And your next question is, did I like DMC rebooted Devil May Cry? As a game itself, I did think it was okay. My biggest problem with it is that I didn't like how they wanted to reboot the franchise despite how the original storyline ended. If you actually look at the original Devil May Cry games in chronological order, then Dante's story ends with Devil May Cry 2. And I don't like how they kind of just ended the character's storyline that way. I want one more game with that Dante, give me a satisfying ending, and then from that point on, you can actually reboot the franchise and do whatever you want. This was just too soon. I didn't like the storyline, but as a game, it was okay. And the last question in I don't even know how I could have answered this question, but it came from Big Phil 2695, and you've asked probably the craziest versus question I've ever heard. You want me to pick the Power Rangers versus Solid Snake, Cole McGrath, Batman, Spider-Man, Aragorn, which I'm guessing is from Lord of the Rings, and Luke Skywalker from Episode 6. Big Phil, I wouldn't even know where to begin with this. I mean, this is so mixed up. I can't even come up with an answer. I mean, you have the Power Rangers. I'm guessing Tommy's either the Green or the White Ranger at this point in time. You have a team which has experience fighting giant monsters. They actually are very compatible with their powers. They all know each other's strengths and weaknesses. And you have this mesh-up team with characters who don't work well in teams. Some don't have powers, some are easy to take down, and none of them would be able to use their individual strengths. I mean, let's look at Solid Snake. Solid Snake's just a human. What's he gonna do? Shoot his guns at the Power Rangers? That's not gonna work. Cole McGrath is basically a supercharged battery. The problem that I have with your other team is that none of these guys would even know how to work as a team. Batman wouldn't have the time he needs to study the Power Rangers and understand their weaknesses. Spider-Man, with his spider sense, would only help him for so long. I don't even know why Aragorn's there. I mean, what's he doing outside of Middle Earth? What's he got? All he's got is some knives, a sword, and a bow. He doesn't have any powers. And Luke Skywalker, you have to throw into the fact that, well, he has the Force. Can the Force affect the Power Rangers? I don't know. There's simply too many varieties to come up with an answer. I'm going to give you guys a hint. If you're going to come up with a versus series question, try to make it somewhat comparable or compatible. Don't make these wild ones. So, I'm sorry, Big Phil. I really admire that you had such a creative mind, but I can't come up with an answer for this versus because it's just too crazy. And with that is all the questions I have for this episode of The People's Questions. I would again like to thank all of you guys out there for sending in your questions. If you're new to the channel, The People's Questions work simply. You can type in any question about anything in the comments down below, and I will do my best to answer them. Try to get them into me before Wednesday, because I do film these on Wednesday to get them up ready for Friday. And if you like this video, you can also like, comment down below, and please subscribe to track me in my future episodes of The People's Questions. You can also press one of the links in the description down below to follow me on Twitter or friend me on Facebook, and I will be sure to friend you and follow you back. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will see you next time.